Good morning, everybody. Today is July 11th, start of a Monday. Hopefully, have a great week, and I can share that beginning with you and set you on a good path to being the best immigration attorney, immigration practitioner you can be. We have our top 10 that we're going to go through stuff I learned last week to share with you for this week. It's going to be fun as always. I want to thank you for joining. It is episode 249. The new magazine is out. Check out issue 5 of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox magazine. Go to immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com/magazine. Both 4 and 5 power combos of issues is a lot of fun. Would appreciate it if you take a look and let me know your thoughts. If there's anything you like, didn't like, reach out to people who contributed and let them know that you like their article. It helps a lot. Stuff from EB1A to I think R1s or stuff. There's all sorts of different things that could help you in your practice. So definitely check that out. I also want to thank sponsors, argo.com, fellow immigration attorney Mandy Fearbacker runs that operation, along with many other people who are former consular officers who have started, helping clients better understand the consular process exists and do practice interviews. I want to thank Mandy for being a sponsor and coming on the show. She's going to be on the show again and having an article in the magazine too that helps a lot of practitioners. Argo.com is a great website. Check it out. Definitely something immigration lawyers should use. Also want to thank DocuWise, DocuWise.com, who's been a sponsor of the magazine, the podcast for so long. DocuWise is like a really special resource for practitioners who have all-in-one form software management. Now that they're with MyCase, all sorts of extra benefits and support is going to be coming. So I'm looking forward to that. Definitely check it out. Some side notes: check out the Toolbox Instagram page and the other than Instagram, the LinkedIn page, and particularly Instagram because we put our clips, YouTube that is, YouTube and Instagram clips of the information. Sometimes these interviews go an hour long. You get the best pieces of it. Subscribe there, get that information. We're doing an Ask Me Anything. You could ask me any questions about myself, personal, private. We'll see if I answer those. But practice for Toolbox, my law firm, going to help with that. Because one of the goals of the Toolbox is to create community. And with that, I started a community page that's like a Facebook group, but better is private, along with a bunch of videos and daily tips and stuff like that. Pretty much, it's open for immigration lawyers. I'm not talking about too much until I finalize how I'm using the software. But in particular, if you're like a lot of our listeners, a person who's coming into immigration law, going to be an immigration lawyer, wants to learn about it, starting the process, and the initial part of it is geared towards those people. We're going to have groups on L1 training, all this kind of stuff. But if you are one of those people, let me know. Send me your email address. Could add you to the group to get the information. Tons of information going to be shared there. That's going to be really helpful. As always, this is not intended for individual legal guidance, so please consult with an attorney. And a final note: if you're in the immigration field, particularly immigration lawyers, maybe some paralegals, hit me up, send me an email. I'd like to talk with you. We are expanding our firm in the coming months and years. And so I'd rather know you now and be familiar with your work. So when the time comes, we can reach out and get you on board, especially if you're listening to this podcast, show you're dedicated and interested in the practice and the profession, even law students. So hit me up, just send me an email at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com or my office email, info@jqqlaw.com. Both of them would be great. But having said that, let's get the show started. So a lot of different stuff happening. As always, most of my stuff is geared towards consular processing, USCIS stuff is what I do. I just want to share stuff, learn, and we'll end with a couple of marketing tips, things I learned. That's really important. So just to start, it was before that if you're doing a case with the National Visa Center and you're, for example, have a spouse case, LPR has a spouse and an F2A child underneath there, or if you're a U.S. citizen filing for both your parents, there would be one $120 adjustment of status fee for the MC to review with, particular parents. So you're a U.S. citizen, you're filing for your parents, there would be the same NVC fee, which is I think $325. Each of them have to pay that. But there'd be $120 fee for the affidavit support. A couple of weeks ago, or a week or two ago, they removed that, and so now you have to pay two $120 fees. That's just a heads up. Now that rule was lessened. I think it's only towards like spouse and kids now or something like that. But it's really annoying. I mean, it's $120, not that much, but they added one case that we're finishing up. All of a sudden, a payment page popped up for that. That was weird. So bear for that. There was a posting by a colleague who had written on a Facebook group that CBP had fined their client $5,000 for using the SENTRI lane in violation. So if you have a SENTRI card, if you use a special lane that's faster, this person didn't use that, and they charged them $5,000. So there's like, how can we challenge that and all that kind of stuff? So I'm not really sure. I never dealt with that, but that's a really big sum. But that just reminded me to talk about the niches in immigration. They always say the riches are the niches. It rhymes. I've certain niches that I really focus on and push a lot. But this particular thing popped up is I know people who only focus on CBP and even people who have a large focus on forfeiture. So CBP sometimes takes people's money at the port of entry, and to get that money back, it could be a whole program. There's people who market it and just put themselves out there of experts in that. And so it's something if you want to get into, if you're done, you can really push it to be a person that deals with CBP forfeiture to get that money back. And that could be a whole sub practice area niche that you get into. It's pretty interesting. So I thought I'd share that. Number three, constant processing start, but adjustment of status and determination pre. Okay, so here's a thing that pops up. I've talked about it before, but sometimes you have a case that you originally sent out for constant processing, but then the applicant just happens to be in the United States, and you can file for adjustment of status, and you do. Now the NBC does not really get notified that that's the case. So one thing that might happen is a year later you get a termination notice of your case. That isn't always bad, especially if the adjustment of status already happened or if you reopen it. But what you typically want to do is notify the National Visa Center that the case is an adjustment of status and to not terminate the case. Do it through the online portals where you nowadays you're getting a confirmation back once you submit that, so that you have that later on. Because what happens is imagine that adjustment of status case is still pending. NBC could terminate the case and say there was no contact within 1 year, and then USCIS is going to terminate it too, probably. So that stuff does happen. The thing that brought this on was a post I saw online where a person had told the NBC even got the green card, and then a year later, USCIS said we're canceling your green card because your case is terminated by the NBC. So one, having that confirmation shows that you did it. In this case, I'm not sure, it doesn't make sense that the green card was issued, so it didn't make any sense. But these are the kind of issues that have pop up. So you really want to notify them and say, hey, we're doing it here. And just if there's any files or stuff you need to send back, please do send it back. But that's something to be very watchful for when you have these cases that you're going to be adjusting on. Number four is about F4 preference category. We had a case of a U.S. citizen filed for his sister. Obviously, it's going to take like 15 years or something like that. And I-130 got approved really fast, like in like a year and a half, which was surprising. I think that's like they didn't have any children here, so the Child Status Protection Act doesn't really apply. But when they use it that fast, it's really hurtful for people who have children because the I-130 time that's pending will help with Child Status Protection, that kind of stuff. But that wasn't the point I was trying to make. Once it was approved, we got a notice from the National Visa Center that said, our case is here. Please contact us every year. Maybe USCIS, I can't remember, but they say contact us every 1 year to avoid termination of the case. And I was like, wait, that doesn't make sense because this case, I know, although the I-130 is approved, the case doesn't formally start at the NBC. Do we need to contact them every year for 15 years for it terminated? I've never done that in the past, and we've had F4 cases where they hire us because I wasn't around 15 years ago even. So they hire us to do the constant processing portion. They haven't been communicating every year. So that confused me. So I emailed the NBC and said, hey, what's going on? Do we need to do that? And the NBC had this response that really didn't match what I asked, but they said like, your case has not begun with us. Please be patient. When your visa bulletin is current, please we'll contact you. So I took that as if like we don't need to do that. So that was just a confusing thing. I don't have an answer for that. I'm not going to be following up every year. I think that's stupid to do that. And in worst case, they just email us saying we're going to terminate your case because you haven't contacted in 1 year, and then we'll contact them and say no, don't terminate. But I don't think that's necessary. It doesn't make any sense for do that for every year. Number five, affidavit support. It's just a note I wanted to make because some practitioners may not read the instructions in detail for the affidavit support. But when you're doing using assets, which I generally don't recommend doing, but if you have to, especially with the embassies, don't do that. When you're doing affidavit support and you're using assets, the way to calculate it is you get the I-864P chart, which lists how much a family size has to make for income. And then whatever income they don't make, they're missing to match that. You have to multiply it by a number. Now, typically a number is 5. So let's say someone doesn't make any income and they need to make $23,000 a year for the affidavit support. You multiply that by 5, and that's how much assets you have to have on average that are accessible cash within 12 months. But on average over 12 months, you've held that amount. Or, if you have a property, you get that, which I don't recommend using property. The point isn't to get into that calculation, but normally it's 5 times the amount to create for assets. However, The exception is 3 times if you're filing for a spouse of a U.S. citizen, not a green card holder, but if you're a U.S. citizen, you're filing for a spouse, NASA requirement is 3x, not a 5x, as well as if you have a child over the age of 18. So if you're filing the petition affidavit of support for a spouse of U.S. citizen or the child that's above 18, then it's 3x. So be mindful of that. You might not have caught that difference, but I thought I'd share it. Number 6, unauthorized employment income source. So they came out with the updated regulations for the TN NAFTA agreement. So now it's called the USMCA, MCA, MSA, or something like that. And essentially, this is agreement, the trade agreement that U.S., Mexico, and Canada have. And within that, there's an immigration component that says certain professionals could come to the United States to work for certain employers, this and that. This is a TN visa, not the point of what I'm talking about here. But I was reading the regulation, I saw there was a part of it, and I hadn't read the original regulation in detail, so this was good recap. Essentially, they're changing up all the parts to say TN, you use USMCA or whatever NAFTA, you change the words. But there's a part where it said professionals, and section G, and then there's I won't go into the numbers of the section and stuff like that because that's boring. But essentially, it codifies a regulation that I'm not sure if codifies when it refers to statutes, but essentially it puts in the regulation, and it has been, where it specifies what it is to come in on a like a B1 and still be able to operate professional services in the United States. So I thought this was a good resource if you're ever challenged by the agency that say, "Oh, you're doing unauthorized employment." They make notes, and the big thing is, which you've always talked about in the show in the past, is where is the source of the income coming from? Is it a U.S. source or foreign source? And I saved the stuff here. Let me find where it is. So it's like it says, if a person is coming here, the kind of when you're looking at the primary source of remuneration, and I think I'm pronouncing it wrong, I never got that right, but for the proposed business activity, if it's as outside the territory of the party grants a temporary part, blah, blah, blah. The principal also look at the principal person's place of business and actual place of accrual of profits, at least predominantly remains outside of the party's territory. A party shall by party I mean the country who's getting the visa, so this applies for immigration laws for all 3 countries. A party shall normally accept an oral declaration as the principal place of business and the actual place of accrual of profits. Where the party requires further proof, it shall normally consider a letter from the employer attesting to these matters sufficient proof. So there's this big emphasis of where the money is accrual of profits is happening. The source is potentially where it's from, and the place of business where it's at. So, I have a case where this guy was in the United States, and then all of a sudden he won the diversity lottery, could file for, he was on a tourist visa, could file for adjustment, and he had this one-man operation working in technology, I say to keep it vague, not to reveal confidential information, and it was problematic because he was running the whole company. So on vacation here, it was one-person operation. I said, well, if you had a business where you had employees, I'd be more comfortable filing for adjustment of status. But because all you're here, the businesses in Canada, they're Canadian clients, the money's in Canadian accounts, all there. But I'm too afraid of messing things up on a diversity visa, of them saying you're doing unauthorized employment. So I told him, do consular processing. I'm not comfortable with filing adjustment on this one. And I'm sure there'll be another lawyer that'll file adjustment, no problem, and probably get approved. But, these fact patterns kind of scare me. It matched what it was here. If he had a company with employees, we could say employees are doing the full work and maybe he's just guiding them from here. Okay, I would have been more comfortable with that. But not in this fact patterns. But here, there's some rules. The regulation in particular is 8 USC. Where did I save that law for now? 8 USC 2214.2. It's in there on the TN section, but this is focused on the TN or now the USMCA. Is it USMCA? Let me find it. Yeah, USMCA. But by analogy, it should go into the other ones. And then when you're looking at work, I think in the work visa too, it kind of gets into this. But if it applies, that's the thing: is this only apply to USMCA or not? Or could this apply to other visa categories? I think in 214.2, 8 CFR 2.22, they get into this as being a general rule. But I think by analogy, it should be considered, there. I don't know. I got to do more research on this, but essentially, I'm sticking with what I thought beforehand, which is like be very cautious of these scenarios. I've seen CBP let people in when they said, "Oh, you're going to work, yeah, but the company's overseas and all that." They've been okay with this. So CBP generally has this policy. The USMCA comes in under CBP regs and this rules and regulations update, it says Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Customs and Border Protection. But I think by analogy, it should be something that the Department of State and the USCIS should apply to. But it's all discretionary at the end of the day, so you never know what's going on, and you kind of afraid of messing it up. So you got to be careful with that. But I thought that's if you needed to fight it, here's a place where you can find some arguments, and it can be helpful. Okay, so the next thing, number 7, I want to talk about is about reentry permits. One is usually you get a reentry permit for 2 years. If the person has been outside the United States for 4 of the last 5 years, they'll only issue it for 1 year. And there's language in there when it comes to renewal, because there are cases where we got the reentry permit, person needs more time out, and we need to file renewal. Now, technically, they don't consider a renewal; they consider a new request for a new reentry permit. Okay, this is terminology differences, but whatever. But in the instructions, it says you can't apply for a new reentry permit when your existing reentry permit is still valid, which creates this annoying thing that this person wants to come back within 2 years while the reentry permit is valid. And then when they come, they have to be here. The rule is you have to physically be in the United States to file a reentry permit Form I-131, and they want to just get it done there. And so I had a case where I was afraid. I turned it down and said, no, we can't renew it until it expires because of the regulations. But and I was going to hopefully find the AILA doc, which I did in time for this recording. But essentially, you can file for like a new one, and they do approve it, even if the one's not fully expired yet. They may ask you to mail in the old reentry permit, so they have it before issuing the new one. But that was the guidance I was there. I remember when I was a new practitioner, it happened to create some havoc for me in my practice because of my confusion on it. So I thought I'd share that. Check out the AILA doc on it if you're AILA member, but it's important to know. Number 8. Let me try to see my notes. Let's see. Okay, so this is just kind of a timeline thing. It kind of goes to the medical too. Actually, just popped in my head. So I had a case. We did fiance visa. I-129F was approved in 4 months, and within a month and a half, we kept pestering the embassy and the National Visa Center. They issued the NVC number, and we got the interview. Person within like 6 months came in the United States. They're married and filed for adjustment of status in Los Angeles. That case takes like 3 months. So within like a 9 or 10 month period, they may have their green card, which is super, super fast nowadays. I have other I-129F, I-130s that are pending 10, 11 months. So just see if you get the first step approved, this person already got the green card. It just shows how inconsistent the timing and all of this is. Now, the applicant was in Italy. They're going to process that case faster than his fiance in Pakistan or China or India or something like that. That's just how it is. But I just want to give some timelines of what's possible. I posted the approval of the I-129F on Instagram, and a person emailed me saying you're lying, you're a liar. That's impossible. This takes more than 10 months. But yeah, it usually does. I have other cases pending 10 months, but some take faster. So, you don't really want to tell clients how fast it could go potentially, because then they'll stick with that number. I mean, you got to tell them the range, but that was incredible. Now, the other thing is this person, just in K1 fiance visa, sometimes they won't get all the vaccines. Now, you have to get the medical checkup when you're doing a fiance visa, but the vaccination requirement is not there for a K1. Once you're in the United States and they file for adjustment status, it will be. So you may need to update and do like a vaccine records there. And I had another case. I just told him to go do a whole new I-693 because I didn't understand the exact process. Does the doctor just do the vaccine section, the whole thing? I'm like, just do the whole thing in case US has problems. But generally, you don't need to do the medical checkup again because the doctors already did it. The one at the visa stage at the embassy, I think it's valid for a year or something like that. So when they come and get married, you file, you can still use that one, and it's okay. All right, so those are the big legal stuff I want to talk about. But 2 more notes, and one's a half legal, number 9 and 10. I like to leave off with some practice management, marketing kind of stuff. I have one case where we're trying to register an interview at the U.S. Embassy. So when you're doing consular processing, you have to register with the embassy on the website for most countries. In particular, this is like a mail delivery. So when your passport is taken by the embassy, some embassies don't directly give it to you. They send it to a post office where you go and pick it up, which is cool and all that, but you have to register that. And we had a case with a person somehow was in the system already, and we kept trying to register the appointment. It wasn't working, going back and forth with the U.S. Travel Docs email for 2 weeks, and they were just not getting it, not fixing it. So I use a software called Loom, which is I just click it, record, and part of it is I could do a screenshot where a screen recording where it records my screen, and there's a little bubble that has my picture in it. And I just did like a 90-second recording saying, listen, this is the problem, this is not happening, this. And as soon as they saw the video, they fixed the problem. So the email back and forth became hard, but they said pictures worth 1,000 words, maybe a video is worth 1,000,000 words, and that really solved the problem immediately. That 2 weeks and probably like an hour or two of time, if you add all the 10, 15 minutes that add up over this situation, were cleared up. The client was really worried. They thought it's not going to work. I'm like, it's going to work. They always have this problem, but the video solves. And the cool thing about Loom, and I wish I had a referral code for them. Let me see if they have this, but Loom referral code. But the good thing about Loom is once someone views it, you usually get a notification, and the notification it allows you. Oh, it does have a recurring bloggers and affiliates. Okay, I'm not a blogger. I mean, I guess I'm a blogger, but I have to join. Sorry, don't go on a tangent, but it's not a big deal. But Loom, LOOM, when someone opens it, it notifies you. So like when I send it to the only person who got the link for the video was the people processing the case. And once they opened it, like, about 45 minutes later, I get an email that says someone opened your thing. So I knew they opened it, they had viewed it. And then, within a day, the situation was fixed. So that was a godsend. And I'd done that in the past when I forgot it. It's kind of weird. So I'm always wondering, do they want to see video or not? But use it, man. If it's going to help you get the case up and running, not have to go to the back and forth of it. That's so annoying. It's the best thing. And the last thing is, as the firm is growing, my firm is growing. There constantly become bottlenecks in me as we have operations growth and stuff like that. And so it's a lot of me learning how to give away duties and hiring and recruiting for that, and it's creating systems, all that kind of stuff. So that's really key. And one thing I was talking to my associate, and she was like, just write down what you're doing all day in detail so we can see what else you can give away and what we need to hire for and that. So I stopped being a bottleneck. And it reminded me, like around every 6 months, I end up always forget, but then I'm like, oh, I should do this, which is really record for like a week or two every second of what you do. Okay, so from 5:05 to 5:15, I did this. And one thing that happens, it really breaks down what you're doing, how much time you're wasting and not wasting. It kind of puts a little pressure on you to pay more attention to your work too. And it's hard for me to do it on a consistent basis. So that's why I say a week or two, because after a week or two, I get bored of it or annoyed of how to keep track of my time and it fizzles out. But every 6 months, it's good to have this window into your operation of what you're doing, to kind of see what's going on and where you could figure out like time issues or ways of giving that work to someone else to become better at what you do and see what works, what doesn't, what you're wasting time on. Maybe you're watching too much YouTube videos or something like that, or you're spending too much time on breaks or something like that. Or maybe you're not spending enough time on breaks. Looking like, damn, I didn't take any breaks at all throughout this, so maybe I should do that. But it's a helpful tool. And if you're like me, you can't do it consistently. You're not alone. Tracking time is hard. These people that do billable hours in non-immigration law firms and some immigration law firms, they say they get used to it. For me, it's really at first it's fun, like, oh look, I'm doing, and then after a couple of days, I'm like, oh my, I don't feel like typing this out of what I did and think about it. So it's nothing wrong with that. It's just you're a different person, and I'm not into it too. But it is good to do that every once in a while. Every like 6 months, beginning of like each third quarter, like the first quarter of the year and the second quarter, third quarter of the year, maybe do that. I'll give you an idea of what's going on, and that would be helpful. So that's all the big stuff. If you're interested in the magazine, download immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com/magazine. It's free, a lot of information. And if you're, we're going to open the group up to wider people. If you're new to the immigration field, join our community page. It's private. It's not on Facebook, but there's a lot of information. There are a lot of videos and content. I'm putting it out to make you the best immigration practitioner that you can be. So check it out there. And check out the podcast too. So video recording, I'm recording right now, but the podcast, the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, has a lot of views. It's something to listen to when you wash the dishes, when you're driving the car. Big help. And then reach out to me, info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. And that's it for today. See you all next week. I'll probably have some interview recordings, but for these weekly top tens, looking forward to it. Starting the morning strong with it, to have great success for myself and for you guys. Until next one, have a good one. Bye bye.